Hey guys, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to share with you some books that I want to reread. I recently saw, who was it? Little Book Owl did a video where she talked about some books she wanted to reread, and it got me kind of looking at my bookshelves and wondering, what would I want to reread? And of course, having just gone through middle grade March, that also, I saw tons of books that people were reading that I had read as a kid that I thought, ooh, I want to reread those. And just stuff like that. It got me thinking about rereads, so I thought I would share some with you now. So if you guys remember in my 2018 goals video, I talked about 2 books that I want to reread this year. So I should say that the books that I'm going to mention here are not going to be reread this year necessarily, but these first 2 I am planning to reread this year. And the first one is The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. This one I want to read because of the social impact that it had. I remember really loving it when I read it and being very moved and kind of haunted by it. And so I want to reread it. It's about a guy who, an immigrant who comes to Chicago and starts working in the meatpacking industry in the early 1900s? Can't remember. And the conditions are horrible. And a lot of the stuff written about in this book was actual fact. Upton Sinclair actually went into meatpacking companies, kind of covertly went in there, and that's how he researched for the book. And so a lot of the stuff, the horrible things that happened in this book actually did happen to people. So yeah, definitely want to reread this one. And then the next one I talked about in that goals video was The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. This is one that I read in my junior year of high school, and I really liked it. I liked Holden Caulfield, even though he's very angsty, because I was a bit angsty. So I identified with him, but I want to see if I still feel the same way about him as an adult. So these 2. And then the next one is one that I read. I put it on this list because April from Getting Hugga With It was just talking about it on her March wrap-up. She read it for middle grade March, and the way just hearing her talk about it made me want to reread it. And I haven't read it since I was in 6th grade. We read it as a class. And that book is Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. I just remember really liking this book and being moved by it. And again, I want to see if I feel differently about it, because last time I read it, I was probably like, 12 years old. So I won't get to it anytime soon, but it's one that's definitely on my radar. The next one I want to reread is because when I read it in high school for required reading, I actually hated it. And I bashed this author quite a bit. And I'm wondering if I will view him differently now, although I don't think I will, but I don't know. I want to give him another shot. I want to give this book another shot. Or maybe, well, let me just tell you the book, and then I'll keep going. The book is A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. It's a World War II story, I believe. World War II? World War I. Yes, World War I. It's about a nurse that falls in love with a patient, basically. And I hated this book when I read it in high school because I felt like it was very misogynistic, because Ernest Hemingway was a misogynist. And I was like, I hate this book, and I hate this author, and I will never read him again. I don't know. I have since read The Old Man and the Sea by Hemingway, and I actually liked that one. Maybe because it didn't have any women in it that I can remember. I feel like he doesn't write women well, because he wrote women how he felt they should have been. And like I said, he was very misogynistic and very macho in it. So all his women were just, to me, not realistic. The nurse in this book she just angered me, because I was like, I don't think a nurse working in those kinds of conditions and living that kind of life would be this way. So anyways, I want to reread this because I want to see if I will still hate it as much as I did then. But I don't know. Are there any Hemingway books out there besides this one that I should maybe try instead? Maybe. Because like I said, I didn't mind The Old Man and the Sea. I didn't mind his writing. It was the way he wrote women. So I don't know. We'll see about it. We'll see about it. The next couple are books that I consider my favorites, that I've already read. Well, 2 of them I've already read multiple times, and I want to just reread them again. So I will just quickly name them because I don't want this video to get too long. But the first one is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I've read this book 2 or 3 times now, and it was a childhood favorite. I first read it, I think, in 4th grade, and I really loved it. And so I want to probably read it again. Maybe around Christmas time. I seem to like to read it around Christmas time because I believe the beginning of the book, the beginning of the book takes place at Christmas. So I don't know. It just screams Christmas to me. But definitely want to reread this one. Maybe this Christmas. We'll see. And then the other one is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. I've read this a couple of times as well. I just love it. It's just so wacky and weird, and it's just, Wonderland is just such a cool place to me. I just love it, and yeah, it's been a couple years since I read this, so I would love to revisit it again. And yeah, another one that I have read probably 2 or 3 times, but I want to reread again is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. I don't know what it is about this book. I just love it. I love Charlie, the main character. I love that it's written in like a letter format, and I don't know why. I just love this book. Though the ending sometimes, the first time I read it was kind of caught me off guard, I guess. But yeah, this one tugs at my heart for some reason. I just love it. The next 2 are classics that I've only read once and are ones that I loved when I read them though. And so I want to give them a reread because I think I'm going to get more out of them. The first one being 1984 by George Orwell. I read this my senior year of high school and did like this long, in-depth book report on it, but I haven't read it since then. And so I just really want to read it again, especially because this day and age there have been so many parallels made to this book, things that are going on even here in America, and I just want to give it a reread and see, because again, coming at it as an adult, and being a little more politically aware, and things like that, seeing if I think differently about it. See if I love it as much as I did as a 17-year-old. And then the other one I just read last year, so it'll probably be a little bit before I read it again, but I absolutely loved this book. It was one of my favorite books of 2017, and that book is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I just loved this book. I loved the gothic feel of it. I loved Jane. I actually enjoyed the love story, which is not very typical of me. I'm usually not really into love stories, but this one I liked. And I loved the mystery, everything. This book was great, and I definitely want to reread it because I know I will pick up on things that I missed the first time around. But like I said, I just read it last year, so it'll probably be a little bit before I get to this one again. And then the last 2 I have been dying to reread, but I don't because they are, let me just pick them up for you. They are chunkers, guys. Chunkers. But I want to reread them so bad because I say they're my favorites, and how do I know? Because I haven't read them in so long. But they're just so large. The first one is The Stand by Stephen King. I mean, look at this thing. It's huge. But when I read this book, I flew through it. I loved it. It's basically a classic good versus evil book. Set in a backdrop where this horrible virus takes out pretty much the whole country, and the few that are left get kind of separated, kind of good versus evil, and it becomes one of those stories, and I just loved this when I read it. So yes, I want to read it again, but the size. And speaking of size, and speaking of Stephen King, I want to reread it so bad, because again, when I read this book, it surprised me how quickly I got through it. I absolutely loved it. It took me back to my childhood. It was creepy in a good way, and especially in the past year, hearing everybody who has like just read it because they were, they finally were getting to it or whatever, and hearing people talk about it again, and the movie remake coming out, it just made me want to read it so badly. And I even picked up this edition because I loved it. It's like the movie tie-in edition, but because I never had my own copy of this book, and so I want to read it again so bad because I loved the characters and I loved it, but it's just so big. It's a chunker, but yeah, I will get to it someday. Alright guys, so those are all of the books as of right now, just kind of randomly going on through my shelves that I would love to reread someday. Please let me know down below what books you would like to reread and why, because I would love to know. And other than that, that's all I have. So I hope you guys are having a great week, and I will talk to you very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.